Welcome. My name is Ede Illas, and I'm one of the co-editors of the book Communities of Practice at the World Bank, Breaking Knowledge Silos. We had an excellent event organized by the Asian Development Bank for the Knowledge for Impact community, where we discussed some of the lessons from the book, and we had an excellent panel talking about how to break knowledge silos in organizations. Now, we had so many questions that we didn't have time to answer all of them. So I prepared this video to try to go through the unanswered questions. If you didn't attend the seminar, I encourage you to look at the video of the event and then come here for the additional questions. So we had 13. Try to go briefly through them. First, how did you decide which communities of practice to establish? Well, we did two approaches. We had two approaches in our group at the World Bank. We had a top-down where in the management team, we decided 5 topics that were really important for us. And we asked the technical gurus in our group to lead those communities. So they were formal, established by the management team with very clear objectives in that process. They were important, large business line for us. But we also wanted to keep that innovation, and we knew that if you don't ask your teams at large for ideas, then you end up with suboptimal choices. So we had a call for proposals for people who wanted to have new communities. So we had this call, and then we received proposals from different corners of the organization. And the management team reviewed them. Some cases said, perfect, go ahead. In others, no, why don't you change to this angle or this approach? And in other cases, we saw that some of them had to be merged because they were looking at similar questions from different angles. So we had these top-down and bottom-up approaches. After about 12, 18 months, we realized that it wasn't working as well as it could, because the top-down tended to be very bureaucratic. Large organizations have systems, budgets, bureaucracy, and therefore they were not moving as fast, while the bottom-up ideas were moving very fast, but sometimes were more as connected to our business of the organization. They were led by team members that didn't have as much experience, didn't know how to navigate the large bank. And therefore, we decided to have a mapping between the top-down and the bottom-up, where it wasn't a merging, but it was some sort of sponsorship, where the gurus, the technical leads that were looking at the large top-down groups would sponsor and support some of the informal ones altogether, and therefore you would get the benefits from the both. So that was the process that we used to select the communities of practice and the lessons and the improvements that we had along the way. Second is that a specific strategy to create bridges between communities of practice and to prevent redundancies by forcing some of these communities to merge. Yes, we were very purposeful into trying to make sure that the reality is that we didn't have enough resources to support all of the great ideas that were out there. And we found that some groups were looking at the same development challenge from different perspectives, but they didn't know that other groups were working on a similar issue. So we said, why don't you come together and actually you enrich each other, you cross-fertilize by bringing these different technical disciplines to look at the same problem. And actually people loved it, and then they figured out that they were coming up with even better ideas and solutions than if they were working alone. Now, we were very disciplined in the management team that this idea of the communities of practice were to break knowledge silos. And that's why actually we didn't call them communities of practice. We call them knowledge silo breakers. It's to be able to send the message and to repeat to everybody, you are cutting across units of the organization. If the community is within a unit, that's not a community. This is just part of the unit work program. It has to cut across regions. It has to cut across technical disciplines. It has to cut across staff from different perspectives, the old timers, the young generation. It is out of that diversity that the best ideas come. Number 3, can you tell us a little bit more about the overall governance? Was that the role of the knowledge management team? And actually, the governance was as follows. The management team was overall responsible for the governance of the entire ecosystem of communities of practice. We decided which communities were going to be approved, which ones were not. We reviewed them every year to see what progress had been made. Some we said, yes, keep on going. They're doing great. Others say, why don't you change this or this aspect? Others we put into hibernation because they were not being as effective as we want. People change jobs, life situations change. And therefore, we decided in the management team to have a very structured governance process where we, as the managers, were in charge of that process. The knowledge management team played an invaluable role because they were bringing the skills, the expertise, the tools of knowledge management to work with all of these technical community leaders to be able to do the best that they could with the community. Now, what about number 4? What about the sense of belonging as part of the community? How do you make it grow? And actually, we found that it became very organic because we made sure that these communities of practice were very connected to the business. And therefore, all of the activities that they were doing were helping their members do their job better, do their job faster, do their job with better quality, do their job with more innovation. And therefore, actually, people were drawn to this because but the more that they contributed, then the more that they got out of the community to be able to do their job better. And actually, we also had lots of activities that were very purposeful, fun, solitary, but fun to be able to make sure that people connected, not only at the technical level, but also at the personal level. These communities began to create teams across virtual teams across very different units. We had team members in 90 country offices around 17 time zones. And therefore, that connection was particularly important for those communities to operate. Number 5, how can communities of practice help during change and organizational restructuring processes? Well, we always said that the communities of practice are the connector across boxes. Because you're doing a reorganization, you are moving the boxes. You're changing the way in which relations are structured, in which supervisors go after different things. The matrix structure sometimes change in emphasis, but these communities were purposely designed to break across knowledge silos. And therefore, in reorganization processes, that cohesion between those communities allowed, again, once you reorganize the different workflows, to say, look, we continue to be the same people. We may be in different boxes, but we have the same objective. We have the same vision to serve our clients. We have the same ideas of innovation. Number 6, how are the community members incentivized or motivated to understand that knowledge management is important? How to address the time and the workload constraints that prevents members from actively participating in the communities? Well, what we did from the beginning is that communities of practice and knowledge management, we said they are not separate from your day job. It's not something that you do on weekends or in evening times when you have finished your work. It is an integral part of providing better services to your clients. So actually, the communities have very specific activities to be able to help a team that was struggling with the implementation of a project, bringing new ideas from around the world on how other teams have resolved those. When a team was thinking and brainstorming around a new project with their client, then there was a whole bunch of methodologies to bring community members to help them co-create that process. When they were trying to figure out how to solve important implementation challenges, then there was mechanisms to bring other clients and other practitioners to look at what were the problems and to give lots of ideas. So in a way, it wasn't like knowledge management is over here, my job is over here. They were part and parcel of the same approach altogether. And that's what actually made everybody so excited about being of these communities. Number 7, one of our greatest challenges is curating the content to be shared in the digital spaces of the communities. Do you have a dedicated team with specific actions to ensure that your content was curated in the most effective way? Well, our central knowledge management team that was supporting all of these technical communities of practice were not in charge of curating and looking through all kinds of documents themselves. Actually, they were helping these communities to say, look, given the questions that you're doing, what are the most important documents? Or when there was an activity reviewing a specific project and there were ideas and documents coming in, then they curated that process. In some cases, there was a help desk, and that help desk function was also to curate some of the information that was coming in. We have a full chapter in the book describing how these communities of these help desks were curating information. So, but what was really important was the connection to the specific business. We told communities, look, don't go around as a first step to curate every possible document out there and to do a library, because then first it's going to take you a long time. Second, it's not going to be targeted to the problems you're facing. Third, then the energy and the excitement of the community is going to wither away. Now, there were communities, because we had a great diversity of communities. There was one that said, look, our main objective is that there's so much on transit-oriented development out there that we wanted to really come with the best of the best in terms of ideas and publication into a manual. And that was the objective. And that was a great need. And everybody got mobilized and capitalized and excited about that activity. Perfectly fine. The curation process was at the core of what they wanted to do. Not every community of practice was seeing that need, and therefore that diversity was also something that we said, not every community needs to be the same. Make sure that you are serving your clients and you're serving the needs of your members. Number 8, how did you ensure that communities of practice were inclusive and accessible to all members, regardless of their experience level or role? From the beginning, we said, look, our team is located in 90 country offices over 17 time zones, and the knowledge is not in the headquarters offices. The real knowledge is generated in the country office, where they are working day in, day out with their clients, solving problems, finding solutions to those development challenges. And therefore, from the beginning, there was a specific section in the proposal for the community of practice that said, how are you going to make sure that team members from around the world are part and parcel of the community? What are the specific activities you will undertake? How will you work in that? And different communities did different things. Some decided, no, we're going to have sub-regional chapters, the Americas, the Europe, Africa, Middle East, and then the Asians. And then they organized themselves. Others decided, no, we're going to be having around follow the sun activities, where we had discussions here, we pass it on to the next thing, we pass it on to the next. Others said, no, actually, we want to send a signal that it's really important for the country offices to lead. So they had activities at 2 a.m. Washington time to send a signal, this is for us in the country offices. So different communities try different things. They learn from each other. But the main message was, this has to be an inclusive. If you are a small group in a single office doing the same things that you're doing in your unit, that is not a true community of practice. Number 9, what are some indicators to assess the health of the communities of practice? In the book, you will see that we had a framework with a series of activities and indicators that we gave as guidance, not as a straitjacket, but as guidance to the communities of practice as they were defining their annual work programs. We told them, look, our ambition is that all of these communities will become a global center of excellence that is connected to practitioners around the world working on the topic of your interest. But you had to evolve, you had to grow, you had to go step by step. And therefore, there were specific indicators, measures of success that each community would say, on this year, this is where we want to focus, this is where we want to move from here to here. What was really important was that at the end of the year, they had to report back to the management team and say, this is what we achieved. This is what we went over. This is what we did more. This is what we did less. This is how we're growing as a community. By having that self-reflection process, by bringing that to the management team, we serve several purposes. First, the communities knew that the management team was paying attention, and therefore they saw this is not something on the side, that's nice hobby. This is an important part of what management wants us to do. Second, it brought that discipline that is not community of practice are not just fun things to do. Actually, it is very much a structured process of plans And third, it allowed us to say, look, some communities are progressing really well, others are not. How do we either help those that are struggling, or how do we tell them, look, why don't you take a break and then come back in a year or two once your team members get re-energized? So that is not only the indicators to measure the health of the community, it is the management intention and review process and support that we get to the communities that make all the difference. Number 10, how to create a safe space to encourage the sharing of failures. That was one area that we struggled a lot, I'll be very honest, because nobody wants to say, oh, my project was a failure. What we realized, and we tried different methodologies, was that people are more comfortable describing the journey of development. Meaning, development is not a straight line where you're going from point A to point B, and everything that you said that you designed the project is going to happen. Everything that you said that was going to happen in the policy reform works perfectly and beautifully. Actually, there are many struggles along the way. There are setbacks, there are solutions, there are creativity to cope, to bring back the project, the policy reform, the initiative, the program back on track. And therefore, we, instead of calling them failures, we said journeys of development. How do you actually tell those stories? How do you share the tips and tricks? How do you compare? How do you bring those tips and tricks to the new project design to be able to say, hey, next time, don't go this way because it's going to be really hard to go that process. So we changed the terminology. We moved from failures, total failures, to actually the reality of development all throughout. Number 11, when building a multidisciplinary community of practice, what qualities and skills should be considered to identify the right community leader, the community builder? Well, we found that actually being a really good technical person, to be the technical leader of the community is important, but it's not sufficient. So we found that the best leaders were the ones that were excellent networkers, the ones that were able to see the dots and connect them, the ones that were able to motivate teams to work together, even though they were not the supervisors. They had to lead with an authority. They were really good at finding budgets and resources across the organization to achieve their objective. Even though we gave them seed funding, it was clear to everybody, and we from the management team said, this budget is not enough to do everything you want to do. Be creative, use this seed funding to mobilize even more funding. So we also realized that actually those skills, creativity, leadership without authority, the ability to cut across silos, the ability to see the dots and connect them, actually were skills that were very important for the future generation of managers. So these technical leaders of communities became in a way, our bench when we were selecting new managers, because the management team was looking at them, was seeing how they operated, knew the technical work, of course, but also knew these skills that were really important as they move up in their leadership job. Number 12, how did you manage the interaction with external parties and external stakeholders with internal communities? Was there any issue of tensions, confidentiality, and the like? We were concerned about this at the beginning, but we found out that actually very soon people just become more of it became conversations across practitioners rather than a specific nitty-gritty of the projects. What are the lessons? How can we compare? They were becoming really talking about these important challenges of development. And therefore, and we saw actually that the most vibrant and the most interesting communities of practice inside the organization were those that from the beginning began to connect with practitioners outside and other organizations working on similar issues. Of course, from the beginning, every community had to work with their clients in a very collaborative way. So there were mechanisms by which several members of the community, staff of the World Bank, would work with several clients in co-creation processes to try to learn from each other and to try to identify pathways to solve the important development challenges. So with the clients, they give it from the beginning, but actually we encourage everybody to say, look outside. And for example, one community decided our main objective is to figure out how to bring our topic to the G20. Another community says, look, There are all these think tanks and organizations that are building the capacity in these countries. What we want is to make sure that we learn from them and that we also are able to bring our expertise to them. So different communities began to do those connections with the outside world in different ways, but very productive and interesting. And what was good is that we would bring all of these community leaders to talk to each other periodically, to learn from each other. And it was a healthy competition and a healthy coping of methodologies and tricks. And it was really exciting to see them all grow in the journey that we had charted for them. And number 13, there's a trend where the term knowledge management is becoming less common. And we are now using terms like knowledge engagement or knowledge impact instead. What are your thoughts on this change of language? Look, when I hear terms such as knowledge for impact or knowledge engagement, this is what we were trying to do with the communities of practice, because at the end, by connecting these communities to the day-to-day work and to the engagement with the clients and to the improvement of services to the clients, then actually you are engaging with them. You are doing knowledge for impact right away. You are doing knowledge for your work. And therefore, these new terms reflect the realities of what we were looking for in communities of practice. But remember, we didn't talk too much about the term knowledge management. We didn't even use the term communities of practice. We used the term knowledge silo breakers, and the acronym KSBs picked up and actually became like a core term to define something different, to define a new way of interaction, to say, look, we can create something that is different from the old communities of practice, and a KSB is undefined, and therefore it freed up people to define what they wanted to do. Of course, within the frameworks that we were giving them, within the ultimate objective of what we were trying to achieve, and within that annual disciplinary review, to be able to make sure that the communities were making progress, were achieving their objectives, were really improving and learning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to answer these questions. It was a great conversation that we had, and we look forward to continue conversations. This video is going to be put in the Knowledge for Impact platform, and I look forward to engaging with you if you have additional questions all throughout. And also, please visit our book website, Communities of Practice, the book, single word, communitiesofpracticethebook.com. Thank you so much.